Did the Geo Metro make the Geo brand a joke?
Well, I was shopping for a new car, which one's me? A cool convertible or an SUV? Too bad I didn't know my credit was whack, cause now I'm driving off the lot in a used subcompact. F-R-E-E, that spells free. Creditreport.com, baby. Saw their ads on my TV. Thought about going, but was too lazy. Now instead of looking fly and rolling fat, my legs are sticking to the vinyl and my posse's getting laughed at. F-R-E-E, that spells free. Creditreport.com, baby.
The Geo brand was launched by General Motors because GM and other American car companies didn't make small cars as good as the Japanese. The Japanese don't like small American vehicles because they make them so much better than us. The Japanese do like American sports cars like the Viper and Corvette. They like Harleys. They like big vehicles, but in terms of small cars, the Americans, even to this day, are slightly behind the Japanese still, especially in the 80s and 90s. This is my 1992 Geo Tracker. This is a Suzuki Sidekick. Rebranded Suzuki Sidekick. It's a twin of the Sidekick. When you look at the Geo logo, it's a Chevrolet logo inside of a globe. So Geos were sold through Chevy dealers. So it wasn't their own small vehicles. It was small vehicles from other companies. How did the Geo brand become a joke? When I was searching for small Suzuki 4x4s, I wanted a Samurai, a Sidekick, or a Geo Tracker. I was hoping to get a Geo Tracker. I just wanted that Geo emblem on my vehicle. I think it's cool. So why did it become a joke? This is a Suzuki Sidekick, still being made to this day as the Jimny, legendary 4x4. The Geo Prism is a Toyota Corolla, the most popular car of all time. The Geo Storm is a Isuzu Impulse, probably their most obscure vehicle, the Impulse. And then the Geo Metro is a Suzuki Swift. The Suzuki Swift had a performance variant that had 100 horsepower, and 100 horsepower for a car less than 2,000 pounds back in the early 90s, late 80s, that was a fast car. It was every bit as fast as any pocket rocket out there. So what happened with the Geo Metro? When the Geo Metro was introduced in the late 80s and produced into the early 2000s, there was a 1-liter 3-cylinder engine that made 48 to 55 horsepower. Even in late 80s standards, that was really low. In 1982, I believe the Pontiac Tempest had 62 horsepower. So this had early 80s era horsepower in the late 80s into the 90s. And I think that's what made Geo a joke brand. People thought about the Geo Metro when they thought about Geos. The Geo Metro was, I believe, $7,000 brand new. It was the most fuel efficient car. And fuel was cheap in the 80s and 90s, so no one really cared about fuel efficiency in the 80s and 90s because of how cheap fuel was. But I think that's what branded Geo. People thought about the Geo Metro when they thought about the Geo brand. My Geo Tracker has 80 horsepower, and it's pretty slow too. Being cheap, small, slow, and fuel efficient just wasn't sexy in the 80s and 90s. That's a shame, because the Geo brand was the best that Japan had to offer. This is one of the best 4x4s ever. I always tell people who just need a car, who need a cheap, reliable car, get a Toyota Corolla. The Prism was just a Toyota Corolla. It was the American Toyota Corolla. Geo Metro, one of the most reliable cars ever. I learned how to drive a stick with the Geo Metro. Everyone that's ever had a Geo Metro who gave it a chance miss it and want another one if they didn't already get another one. The Impulse was the oddball of the Geo lineup. The Storm. But what a cool brand. I wanted the Geo variant of a Suzuki. I wouldn't have minded a Samurai or a Sidekick, but I really wanted a Geo, just for the cool emblem. So if the Geo Metro got the performance variant like the Swift, if the Geo Metro ever got the cool 1.3 liter dual overhead cam with 100 horsepower, would that have changed Geo's fortune if they had a more serious performance variant of the Metro? The Swift never got the 1 liter 3-cylinder engine. They got an economy 4-cylinder engine and the performance variant, but the Geo Metro never got it. So would that have changed Geo's fortune if that car got that engine? But you know what? It's 2022 now. Geo was a joke in the 80s and 90s, but now in 2022, if you're rolling in a Geo, your posse won't be laughed at.